What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and it's time to dial in my review of Black Widow. And also, there's some interesting stuff going on with the reviews that I want to take a look at, as well as yet another disappointing gender-swapped character for your enjoyment. Now, Black Widow, and I've said this up until, right now, that the movie was never going to be a 10, right? It's not going to be a 10. Wasn't going to be a 9. Probably wasn't going to be an 8. But based on what Marvel's output is like and based on their track record, it wasn't going to be like a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 movie either. It was going to be, if it stunk, it would still probably be a 5 or a 6. If it was probably fully realized, maybe a 7 out of 10, which is interesting given how it's being reviewed. In fact, Rotten Tomatoes already in full damage control mode, allowing just 1,000 reviews through, unless that's changed. Nope, 94%. Even though the critics themselves gave it an 81, and it continues to fall. I mean, an 81 certified fresh to me is such a ridiculous score. Like, it would have to be, for me, for something to be like certified, this is something you should see. I would think that 90% of critics would agree that it's a good movie. Now, remember, that's not a score. That is 81% of critics thought it was at least a 2.5 out of 5. You could see, people from like here, Giant Freaking Robot. Black Widow is not the worst Marvel Cinematic movie universe movie, but it's easily one of the blandest. Dishearteningly less concerned with giving Natasha Romanoff her own story than with setting up her MCU replacement. Superfluous, backward-looking, and a bit of feminism. Bella board. She deserved better. Black Widow wants to give MCU fans the reward of understanding of reference without asking them to do the work. This is diluted fandom. As talented as Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh are, nothing they say or do feels honest or character-driven. It's a Scarlett Johansson movie, but Florence steals the show. Adequate, but the film never takes any cinematic risks. Well, you can't get mad at Marvel for not taking any cinematic risks. They literally never do. That's the point. No characters ever get, their storylines ever get shortened. There's never any real stakes, except for once in Endgame for like 10 seconds. And shockingly, that's about all I remember from that movie, other than that weird girl power moment that they shoehorned in as well. And obviously, there are plenty of positive reviews as well, but most of them are not like 10 out of 10s. They give the movie a B or an 80%. There's little denying where this film excels in concept and message, as we're given a fully realized backstory for Natasha Romanoff that's smart and compelling. And I would argue that the backstory they do give Natasha is decent. There are so many plot holes, though, and I don't know. It's probably because I was watching the film with a more critical eye that I was noticing them, but it was so formulaic, and even they couldn't like keep things together. Now, is it a bad movie? I don't think so. I think it's a below average Marvel movie, which is still decent. Would I pay $30 for streaming this on premium? Absolutely not. I think you can totally wait. You've already waited a year plus since it was supposed to be released. Remember, if you already pay for Disney Plus, I believe October, this film will be released for free, or at least included in your subscription. You have literally everything to gain by waiting for that. There's nothing in this film that really does anything important. Nobody's going to be talking about this movie on Monday at the water cooler, if people still do that sort of thing. There's really nothing interesting that happens. It's like a standalone, below average Marvel movie. Now, there are more in-depth reviews that will give you a better taste for it, but I think, as usual, when we go to Metacritic, a 7 is probably I still think too high. But, you know, the problem with Metacritic is it's usually 10s or 0s. So I tend to try to read the reviews that are like 4 to 7. I don't care. Like, no modern movie is coming out and getting a 10. That's just not happening. 0 for a Marvel movie, I mean, tell me you're just, you know, you're artificially trying to drag it down without telling me that, you know. Only a half step above Thor Dark World. Waited for a piece of garbage at $30. Kevin Feige should be ashamed. 0. It's not a 0. It's not a 1, 2, 3, or even maybe a 4 if you're a huge Taskmaster fan. Because, of course, I'll get to that in a second. You see a lot of people like 0, what a piece of garbage movie. What they did with Taskmaster, what a joke. Talk about one of Marvel's best villains. I also love how the villains in this movie are supposed to be analogous to people like Jeffrey, yet they made them Russian instead of, oh yeah, I'm not going down that road. I'm not going that road. The movie starts off strong, with compelling introduction that shows promise for the main characters, but don't let that fool you into thinking this would be more than anything another average Marvel action movie. The action is over the top and bogged by CGI. And I heard that, you know, a lot of people saying that the CGI and the lighting were not very good. I don't have that kind of eye when I watch movies. Like, you know, so I can't really speak to that. It all looks fake. I mean, it always does. All the villains are immediately forgettable. Well, also don't forget that all the men in this movie are bumbling idiots. That I'm sure that was not an accident. The humor is a constant hit or miss. All that said, the movie does have an emotional core with family that sustains in scenes throughout. Dan Harmon and Florence act very well and bring a lot of charm to the movie. Would recommend, but didn't have high expectations for Marvel's long overdue solo film. That's a good review. I would say that's a pretty good review. You see it, you know, just when I thought Captain Marvel was the worst movie in the MCU, the movie's existence is an absolute pointless to pushing the universe forward. It goes back to the events following Captain America Civil War and seems to be utterly useless. I'd agree with that. But remember, like, the movie was supposed to come out last year. So, and honestly, what does the Eternals do to push the MCU forward at this point? What is, you know, what is, why, I don't argue Loki is doing that. But WandaVision, you know, maybe a little. I think when you look at why this movie is mediocre, you need to look at the director. Okay, here's where we're gonna get it down to. Marvel does this thing now with Nia DaCosta and Captain Marvel 2, The Marvels. Kate Shortland, okay? Who is Kate Shortland? Well, she's Australian. She's 52 years old. Don't care about any of those things. What has she worked on, okay? Well, nothing. Kate Shortland has really done nothing. You have 4-episode series called Smilf in 2019. I mean, none of a short film, a TV show for 4 episodes, a TV show for 10 episodes. Literally everything this woman has ever touched sucked and was a failure or didn't stick around long. Berlin Syndrome, I feel like I kind of remember that movie. I don't remember exactly. But again, this woman has done nothing as a director worth a Marvel movie. We saw this with another underqualified Nia DaCosta. Now we're seeing a lot of trailers for her Candyman ripoff, remake, and I'm actually optimistic. The trailer looks okay, and maybe Nia can pull it off. But if we look at who is writing on it, this really tells you a lot of, you know, who's writing on it. You could see here, cast. Wait, we don't want cast. I think I remember seeing the writers. The writers were from basically nothing and then WandaVision, if I remember correctly. So, you know, I don't know. Box Office Pro projects Black Widow will earn 65 to 90 million on its opening weekend. So we're going to see what happens. But now here's where things get a little dicey. If you're a fan of Taskmaster, which is an excellent Marvel villain, I don't think you're going to love how the character was depicted in this movie. There is, I guess at this point, I'm just going to say it, you know, minor spoiler, they gender swap Taskmaster. Now, if I remember right, there is some ancient lore in a comic book where Taskmaster is female. Fine, but you just knew they were going to do that anyway. And you can see, you know, Taskmaster was trending this morning for a reason. David Cage just got done watching Black Widow and thought it was a decent movie. Again, stop paying for decent. Stop rewarding mediocrity. I don't like, I'm sorry, my biggest gripe I had was Taskmaster. I don't like what they did to the character. Such a cool villain, wasted. Also, can we get more Red Guardian? Red Guardian was like comic relief. It was fine. Black Widow would have been so much better than what we actually got. And to all the many Taskmaster fans out there, my respects and condolences, because that character was one of the worst adaptations of any comic book character I've ever seen. I mean, you know, I love that Marvel looked at Taskmaster's costume and said, how can we make this as generic as possible? Yeah, I mean, you know, Taskmaster in comics, Taskmaster in Black Widow movie. You know, you've hit rock bottom when this game did Taskmaster better. The video game, yeah, right. Rip to Taskmaster, not a spoiler. Rip to the potential of him being a great villain. See you in around 5 to 10 years in a better costume when the MCU brings you back for redemption. Well, hopefully. I mean, the guy looked like Skeletor throughout the entire film. That's what I can say. It did not look like Taskmaster to me at all. At all. Remember when we all thought this guy was Taskmaster? I mean, Marvel really got us. Yeah. I mean, subverting expectations. Hearing Taskmaster is the worst MCU villain to date, you know, it's not great. If somebody else is paying for it, a fine movie to watch. If you're a completionist, wait till October and watch it included in Disney Plus. If you're a pirate, well, then you already know what to do. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.